Jai, and welcome to a Gate of Gates special broadcast. We're here live from the New Jersey Temple. We are the Maaheqwurr Generation. You see before you the Maaheqwurr Generation. That is the first generation of the New Jersey Temple. And we're coming to you guys live to do a special Gate of Gates initiate illumination. As you guys know or don't know, well, first, before I get into that, I really want to take the time to acknowledge the forces in the non-material first. The great ancestor, Nebnabala Musa Mora Dinabig, and all the other ancestors that are standing behind the Earth Center, all of our ancestors, your ancestors, everyone's ancestors that are standing behind this great work. And, to just really acknowledge all of the forces in the non-material, the deities, the powers of nature, everything, the genies, everything that's standing behind this great work. Just take the time to really acknowledge those forces. And then say, for those of you that don't know, September 3rd and all throughout the month of September, within our temples, we are opening up the doors of initiation. So again, all of the temples are opening up their doors of initiation. Particularly, we'll be opening up the doors of initiation in the New Jersey Temple on September 3rd. So that's almost, I think, a week away. It's 1 week away, so that's going to be next Sunday. So we wanted to do a special kind of broadcast for everybody. Particularly, the special kind of broadcast that we're going to be doing is you have a complete generation of MTOM before you, which means we will answer any and all of your questions that you would like to ask us as initiates and get your answers about the initiatic process live in real time from a full generation. So with that being said, we have so the Earth Center said nice shorts. I can only assume my shorts. Thank you. They are nice shorts. I picked them out myself. We have some questions that we fielded from the younger generations, particularly those that are still going through the first level of initiation, Parank. So the initiation is divided into two sections, or two parts, I should say. There's the first level, which is called Parank, which translates to the house of life. And you know what? I'm not even going to explain it. I'm not going to explain it because I'm going to let Terry Schott explain it. Bazanti's like, so glad it wasn't me.
Okay, Ujjayi, greetings everybody. So my name's Teddy Schott Maaheqwurr. And so as Tutipsa was saying, we have the first part of initiation, or the first level of initiation, called Per-Ankh, which means house of life. That's really the first level of initiation that, traditionally in the culture, the way that initiation works, a child at the age of 7 or 8 would be entering that level of initiation to really get the foundation for their life.
Age of 7?
Yeah. Automatically puts things into context. But basically at the age of 7 or 8, that's when a child would really receive the knowledge about, how to be a human being in this life, on this planet. What that really means, what we have to understand about ourselves as human beings and how to navigate those things. And then really, the tools that we need to be able to, evolve spiritually, purify ourselves, cleanse ourselves, and actually move forward in trying to understand our own destiny and how to walk as one small part of something much bigger. That could be your family, that could be your community, that could be your lineage, how to reclaim your ancestral legacy and actually walk in the steps of your ancestors, and then how to fit into the bigger planet as well, into nature itself, and then take it from there. So that initiation and all of those tools, that knowledge has been preserved for, thousands of years. And then we're lucky enough today to have access to that here in the West, or here in places of the world, you know, all over the world, honestly, at this point, and we're growing, to have access to that outside of the traditional context, outside of the initiatic camps in the bush, thanks to the sacrifice and thanks to the hard work of, you know, the founder of the Earth Center, Namnabala Musa Morudenebig, but also all the families, all the communities, you know, the kingships, the powers in the invisible that went behind preserving this against, you know, colonization, against, you know, all the forces at play that are trying to, you know, wipe out the value of indigenous culture. This initiation, which is the oldest that humanity has been preserved. And then today we have access to that, you know, and have a way to actually get back to ourselves.
Wrap it up.
Get back to ourselves, you know, and understand how to, you know, move forward in our lives. So that's Parank. It's just the first level. And then, you know, I'm going to pass it off to Cynthia for the next.
I mean, wait, hold on.
We ain't gotta go that far.
Yeah, we didn't have to go that far. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything Cynthia would like to add, but I mean, if you have something you would like to add, you can, Cynthia, but I don't know.
I think Teddy Shah kind of
Teddy Shah covered it all, right?
Yeah,
she covered it all
pretty
for
much.
all of us. All right, so should we just jump into questions? I already see some questions in the YouTube chat, but we can just jump into the.
Yeah, just to give it some context, you know, again, like Tutisu was saying, the purpose of this for all of the people watching on YouTube and Instagram is to give all of the people, because the thing about initiation is that you come into it and it becomes increasingly like difficult for you to relate to those who aren't exposed to the same information as you. And, you know, that could be with anything, but with this specifically, you know,
it's a cult. No, I'm kidding.
It becomes that, you know, people don't really understand what this is. So when they look at it, they sort of
that's what you described.
Put you in
somebody asked me about that, though.
they put you into very specific boxes that are given to you by the modern world, you know, in order to categorize something like this. So this is just an opportunity for all of you out there to have a window into these real people's lives. Like, these are real people sitting before you. They're not robots. They're not like comedic mummies that jumped out of a tomb or something like that, and now they're talking about comedic principles. These are real people who had regular lives before this, and now they've done something to, you know, help to change their lives. So it's really just to give you guys some firsthand experience of what this process does for a human being. So yeah, to teach.
So let's do a few initiate questions, and then we can hop into some of these questions coming in the chat. Okay. So people feel seen, feel heard, feel validated. So going into the question, so let's go with the youngest generation, right? So this question is coming from the 5th gen of New Jersey. I'm not going to say who, but the question is, how has initiation impacted your life in terms of how you see things now compared to before initiation? Irisahu?
Ujai. So my name is Irisahu, and I will attempt to answer that question to the best of my ability. So to start with, before coming into this, right, there was like a series or a sequence of things that I personally was involved in trying to seek some kind of enlightenment. So, you know, like I was a Christian, I used to be involved with maybe some kind of Islamic knowledge, Buddhism knowledge, Rastafarian knowledge, but then coming into this, right, because all those things that you've been navigating through, then you realize to yourself that every time you kind of like embark on a different religion or a different way of living your life, there seems to be like questions, right? Like, and then the thing is, like, nobody's there to answer your questions. So me coming into this immediately, you know, like somehow like my spirit already saying to me like, okay, this seems to be authentic, and there seems to be like answers to all the questions that you have. Mind you that some of the questions that you have may take time before you can actually get answers, because everything don't just come at once. Being on this path has really impacted my life in so many ways, like things like, for example, the way I think. You know, like now I question everything. You know, whenever someone would come to me and probably like ask me a question, if I don't have like the right answer, or an answer that is logical or intelligent or have some kind of wisdom in it or appropriate, then the first thing I know I have to do is go like seek some information and try to even like seek some answers for that question for myself first, and then before I can possibly give it to someone else. Because one of the key things that we have learned on this path is that misleading someone or giving someone like wrong information, it's upon you, right? When you get certain knowledge or acquire certain knowledge, it's important for you to transmit that knowledge the same way you get it. You don't add anything, you don't take away anything. So that's one of the key things. Also, I think in another way that this has impacted my life is that I'm able now to have more clarity of a lot of things, whereby, like for example, with my family, I can give good advice. You know, I can like try to help them health-wise, because this is like, it's wide and it's deep. So there's a lot of information there. And
But Irisao, Kafra, to make the question a little bit more specific, right? Because you're from the Caribbean, right? So there in the Caribbean, there is more of a natural lifestyle, you could say, right? So even in coming into this, I'm sure that you're seeing some things that you're already familiar with, but now you're building more of a, like, how is it built upon those things that you've all, because you've seen the world through that lens already, right? Coming from like a natural lifestyle. But what here sort of changed it or helped it to evolve even more?
yeah, so me, I'm Guyanese by birth, right? And I was brought up in like a lot of nature, maybe some amount of culture. And one of the things that, I mean, I was exposed to like a lot. I think the key things that really I've observed is that, like, especially when you go on pilgrimage, right? Because me, I'm outside person. I like to be like on the outside in nature, and you know, like just interacting with nature in a practical way. So one of the things that I've found that was really something that I've never known about is the spiritual aspect of this culture. You know, most of it that I've learned like back home, you know, is more like a physical thing, like you around animals, you're around trees, you know about herbs. But then now, like traveling, and then even in classes, getting to learn like how is it now that, okay, even like you having some herbs to heal yourself, right? Like that come with a lot of spiritual implication. So you don't just go pick some bush and then just go buy, like back home, you know, like usually, you know, whatever it is has been passed down
Right.
from the older ones, We can just go pick some bush, you quail it, and then you boil it and you drink. But in the culture, we have learned that, it's much different. Like even harnessing some herbs, there's certain speech that you would make. Even like, for example, like going to the river to get some water, maybe going to pick a rock. You have to give back something to nature. You just don't go pick things like that. So, there's a lot of things that I've learned. Even like for example, maybe you might have a tree that is growing in your yard or somewhere, and you feel into yourself that, oh, I need to remove this tree from this place because, like it's an obstacle. Like just going and chop it down, it can pose a lot of problem. And I've seen some things back home where like cutting trees, and then it's like there's like a lot of like corruption that comes after that, like a lot of chaos that comes after that. And then now with what I'm learning is that the way how you do things, you just don't go, because all of these things is no different from you. It's just like a different
They all have life. Yeah, that's why you ask an elder questions, because he has so much to say.
You see, now my brother is looking at me, but anyhow, I really don't want to get started. But I think I think that should answer that question. At least you have a fair idea as to like what's going on.
No, the elder he's really touching on a lot of stuff. I don't know if y'all really can decipher what he's really getting into, but there's a lot of initiatic principle in what he's saying. And I actually want to segue into the next person and kind of ask someone else a follow-up question kind of on that. Another question from one of the younger initiates: in what ways would you say initiation helps you in like your day-to-day life? Kind of following up on how it's like impacted you from how you saw things before compared to now. Tiasta, what would you say, like from before until now, and like how do you see it in your day-to-day life?
Day-to-day life. I mean, my life has changed in so many ways from the initiation. But I would say if it's just like we're talking about the ordinary, like the everyday, the mundane, it's like now I recognize that when my day starts, if I don't wake up by a certain time, like if I don't wake up early enough to kind of like feel the energies of the way my day is going to go, it's like I almost miss the energy of the day. And like that's a principle I've learned through the initiation, that you have to like rise early, you set your space, you do your spiritual practice. So it's like now I feel off. I mean, there's certain days that go better than other days, but now I feel off if I don't wake up at a certain time, if I don't do my spiritual practice, if I don't like sweep the floor to set the energy of the space. Honestly.
She's going into the details.
She's like, if I don't do these things, I get beat.
No, it's just a personal thing. It's just a personal thing for me at this point, because like I didn't even think about these things before. It might have just been like, okay, like when I feel like it, I do these things, when I like feel good about it. But now it's like, I know I'll feel off if I don't have certain like sequences in my day.
It's like an obligation to your own evolution, right?
Yeah.
That's day to day. So yeah, that makes sense. Tuti, so you look like you had one that you were ready to ask.
So our most loyal viewer, Matthew Ruta, shout out Matthew
Shout out to
Ruta.
Matt.
He was the first. He was the first one with the question, but we're gonna skip you, Matt. None of you were expecting that.
He wants to know where your shorts are from.
Yeah, we're skipping
Matt.
that question.
Sorry about that.
We're skipping your question for now, Matt. And we're gonna go to Ta Amen's question. Why y'all charge so much for initiation?
The infamous question.
For initiate, something like that. Initiation. Where does the souls go that couldn't afford initiation? So, let me say this. We don't charge a lot. And if we did charge a lot, then we would be charging what the universities are charging to give you absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
because universities charge you upwards of, maybe 50,000, at least a minimum. I know if you go to a pretty big college, it could be like at least 50,000 for like one semester, or 50,000 for a year. We don't charge anywhere near that for the entirety of the initiation. Right. You're looking at, I think for a whole semester, you're looking at like, and I mean a whole semester, initiation could be anywhere from 4 semesters to 6 or a little bit more, depending upon how long your generation takes. And you're not looking at nowhere near double digits of thousands, as far as I know.
It's $1,200.
It's semester. It's $1,200 for one semester, and that's you will. I think now there might be some mandates that you have to take all 3 classes, so it'll be like $1,200 for one semester. So you can do the math, and then count per semester. It could be a minimum of 4 semesters. It could be like 6 semesters, depending upon, again, how slow the generation is. So we're not charging that much. And if it was about the money, then we would be charging a lot more. And honestly, like initiation, if we're speaking traditionally, initiation is not something that you charge for. Like in the bush, initiation is not something you pay for. But here, because everything is centered around the energy exchange of money, then it has to be centered around that, to speak to people in a language they understand in order for them to take it serious. Because it's not taken and it's not made about money in Merita, in terms of the way it's done in the Merita temples and in terms of the way it's done in the traditional setting. But it's done that way because the initiation here is kind of like the initiation for special ed people. Because people in the West are kind of like special ed. Like people that grow up in the colonial system, people that grow up in the colonial cultural, special education, or retarded, for those of you that need me to spell it out. It's kind of like the retarded initiation. It's like the initiation for retards, because we're kind of like retards in terms of people from the West. Like, it is what it is. Y'all want to know what initiation is.
When it comes to natural principles, we don't have that as a part of our education.
Like, the whole point about a retard is, like, you're walking down the street, and then everyone knows they're walking down the street, but then a retarded person's not. They're not aware that they're walking down the street. They're kind of like in their own world, kind of like in another world. And that's not a knock on anybody retarded. But it just,
You should expound upon because it is a good question, because I know that a lot of people out there have had that question for a long time. But if anybody can chime in, like, speak to the sense of like the exchange, though, because all that money is an exchange.
It's an exchange.
But why is that necessary based on initiatic principles?
No, but when you think about it, right? We pay money to go on trips. We pay money to do anything for our pleasures. But when it comes to our spirit, we find all reasons in the world not to take care of our spirit.
Right.
And if you're paying not even $1,200, right, to learn how to feed that spirit and to take care of the spirit, why is it you're gonna complain about it? When you buy yourself a Nike, that's how many? $200 and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's people buying shoes.
I know, it's shoes.
That
what about your
costs
spirit? What about your soul?
$1,200 that get made in China for $40.
Right.
Exactly. But you complain about just paying $35 for a class. Come on. I understand that we're in this society where, it's hard because we have to go to work, we have this, that, and a third. But complaining about your spirit versus lining up, sitting down outside just to get a iPhone, right? And you're not making no fuss to buy the iPhone, but when to take care of your spirit, take care of your ancestors, it's a problem.
And you're definitely not going to go to Nike or write them an email to Nike and be like, hey, these shoes, I know they costed this much to make.
Right, they're not doing none of that.
You're not asking Yale or Princeton or Harvard or, Penn State,
like that?
Why are they charging you $50,000 and why aren't student loans forgivable? And why are student loans something that you can't write off in bankruptcy? Because they deliberately know that they're trying to fuck you, and then everybody's allowing them to get fucked by the educational system. So, I mean, it's really about thinking about your morals and your values and where you're placing your values.
And think about the things they question.
Yeah.
Question about why is it so much money, but not question why is the system taking so much money just to get us ready to be batteries for the system. The questions.
But one thing you
Okay,
gotta
go ahead.
understand, right? Like some things in life, you just can't put a price to it. You know, like just being frank, just being straight, right? And with knowledge to this magnitude, right? Think about what it takes for the people who preserve this knowledge, right? And then even to bring it to you now, right? To make it available, right? You know how many people had to die? Now, where's the price to their life? Like, where's the price to their sacrifice? The energy that they put into this. There's technically, there's no, you can't pay for that. Like, what you would pay your mom to bring you into this life? What you would pay your dad? So some things in life, you just can't put a price to it. You just need to value it, and you need to appreciate it. And you just need to, if you really want this, then you would never even looking at the cost. Like if this is something really for you, you would never look at the cost. So that's just my little piece.
Following up, piggybacking off of that again, is the thing is this, is you even learn the Madu language from an uncolonized indigenous perspective. And you hear about even the Madu language, how if you had been caught speaking, reading, or writing it at a certain point, you were beheaded. And it's like, can you put a price on what it meant to fight against colonization and to preserve it for thousands of years? And then if you feel like you can, then I think $1,200 for a semester is not that bad.
Yeah, and I think it's just like a cultural difference too, because it's understood, even temples all around the world, there's this ethic that if you're going to a temple or you're going to a teacher, a master to learn something, the energetic exchange that goes into that is still very significant, even if it's not in the form of money. In the temples, if you're going to a temple for initiation or a master, you dedicate your life to that temple, to that master, in exchange for what you're really receiving. And it takes years to even kind of build up to, it's a goal. No, but it's so interesting, because even like even recently, like I've seen temples in different parts of the world, and even recently when I went to India and I was seeing like how the temple apprentices even there are functioning. That ethic is there, that you're coming for something for yourself, but you don't function like a consumer. Or you don't function like a parasite where you're coming and you feel like you have an entitlement to what's there. You function like someone like, okay, I'm getting something, which means I need to give something to get that. There's that understanding. And I think here in America or in general in the West, when all we have is a consumer mindset, that perspective gets lost.
So how have you guys seen that change, like personally in your lives? Like going from that consumer,
What's the question?
going from like that consumer sort of lifestyle to becoming someone that understands like the discipline of like your master or the masters of like a discipline, and then going to those masters and sort of dedicating a part of your life to that discipline, to that knowledge. You know, how have you seen that sort of shift in your life?
From being a consumer to being a disciple. That's the question? So, all right, so I'm coming from Southside Jamaica, Queens, right?
Right.
Coming from the hood. And our mentors, or, the people that we would look up to, would be like gangs. Like people would look to be in the Bloods, be in the Crips, and that's because naturally we have that yearning, that urge to be a disciple of someone, to have someone mentor us, because just naturally as a human, that's what it means. you need to understand that your mind doesn't think of things that it hasn't been exposed to. And this is something that we're taught in the initiation. So to think that you could lead yourself, or that, you know, you're self-disciplined or self-taught, that's really coming from this system. It's like there's an invisible master, and that's the oppressor, that's the colonizer. And that's why I was really grateful for coming into this initiation, because I realized that in order for me to master myself, I needed a master. And then I got exposed to Master Naba. And I got exposed to the principles and the values that the initiation was coming with. And it was just instructions to life. It was like, you know, the modern society just throws you out in the ocean, and it's like either you sink or you swim. Without no guidance, without nothing.
And they hope you sink.
Exactly.
Right.
But when you come into this, you come with the instructions, and it's really up to you. Either you follow it and then you succeed in life, or you just reject the values, you reject everything that's being taught to you, and then you sink. But it's funny because you may think that you're advancing, because in this society is like, you know, we have this technology, we're taught that the past is primitive. We're taught that the past, we're lacking in things that we don't have now today. But that is really just the total opposite. Right now we're just going down and lower and lower and lower in consciousness. But we're at a point now where we're waking up. And this is why we're here. This is why we're sharing this information, just to let people know that this is the time to wake up. It's not about, you know, doing your own thing, being an individual. It's about just coming together as a community.
Which makes perfect sense, you know. Like you said, right now it's like a lot of people would say that this is like ancient knowledge, or try to make it seem like it's super old and it's not relevant anymore. But really, that's just the mentality of a consumer within itself. It's like, what's new? What's new that I can buy, that I can make myself seem more valid with? How much can I pay for this degree to make me, you know, the greatest one at the office, you know? So it makes perfect sense what you're saying, Bazati. So I want to ask a question to, let's see, what do we got? I want to ask a question to Cynthia. This question is coming from another one of the ungraduated initiates who are in Paran. For Generation 1, how long did it take for you all to finally start functioning on the same goal?
Wow, that's a journey. I mean, initiation in itself, life in itself, it comes with challenges, ups and downs. Even just living in a house with your own family, you know, you're going to have this struggle. You're going to have a lot of challenges. And every day you're going to go through a lot of experience in life. But the main thing to just keep focus on is the goal. What is our goal coming in together? What is the goal? Regardless of whatever situation that you may have with each and every individual, the goal is the main focus. Because yes, we all come different. You can see he's from Guyana, she's from Ireland.
My ancestors.
Ireland.
She from New Jersey.
New Jersey. You know,
My ancestors are from Ireland.
you know, I'm Jamaican. She's from India, South Side. You know, we're all different. We
South
come.
That's crazy.
Southside Jamaican
Southside
Queen.
Jamaican.
Just made him from Southside.
He's from Haiti.
Oh, hey, my bad.
And I guess I
And
just
so,
don't
Freddie,
exist.
we together.
You left me out.
He's from
No,
Long
I wasn't
Island.
done. And he's from Africa. So we all come from different backgrounds, and we're going to
Right.
come in with different mindset, different ways of thinking, you know, and we all have different energies coming behind. But at the end of the day, we just have to keep focusing on the goal. Yes, we're going to fall off, just like any family. You grow up with your family. Me and my sisters have issues. My sisters, my brothers, we have issues. But the one thing we focus
Better
on.
hope your sister don't see this.
No, we know that. We know that's something we always talk about. We argue, we fight about the issue, and then we cannot go to bed with not getting over whatever it is. Tomorrow we wake up, continue, because the goal is the main purpose. Yes, in your generation, you're going to have issues because we're not the same. And even if we're the same, we're still going to have some type of flaws. Our job is to, like, listen, just forget about the pettiness, forget about whatever the case may be, and focus on one thing. You're here to feed your ancestors. You're here to learn about your spirit. You're here to rise and work on what you came here to be. You have a destiny. You have your ancestors. So that's the main goal, regardless of whatever situation that you think you may have with each and every person that you have in your generation.
So, Cynthia, but at what point would you say that y'all really all understood that and started working together? Because I know, like, coming into it, like you said, y'all all from different places. You all have different backgrounds. You all are, like, different people. Right? With your own opinions about life. So when do you really feel like it got to that point where it's like, we can't do this without getting on the same accord?
For me, when we were about to get in our last semester and when we were going to do our finals, our jobs, everything, we took a whole entire week or a day, and we was there eating in the same room.
Very small, a very small room.
There was blood, sweat, tears, and farts.
And we was in there. No, for real, it was blood, sweat, and tears. No, for real.
Bizati, you want to tell us that story?
Emphasis on the farts.
We don't need to tell us.
Reporting breaking news.
No, I do not.
It's a good story. Does anybody else want to tell it?
No, I mean, you're right, Cynthia. That was a specific week where we all literally put our entire lives aside to study for this test so we could all graduate. And that was the goal, was like, we are all passing this gateway together. We're passing this threshold together. And it was like, no man left behind. And it was like, you don't know this concept, we're going to teach you this concept. You know, you're having trouble with this Medu, we're going to get you there. And it was like I think that was definitely a moment where I was like, okay, we're all together in this.
Yeah, I want to say though, you know, because the thing is, like, this is human being initiation, right?
Right.
We're all human beings, and we've been graduated for how many years now? Like,
I think
3 years. We're still up here with, you know, we share a name and all of that, but it's a work in progress, right? Things ebb, things flow. We have to keep making sure that we're keeping up with it, that we're keeping up with the changes, adapting and all of that. And I think I always think about this to myself, about how it's so interesting that Perunk is structured the way it is and that it has to be done as a group. That in Perunk, it's all about how you move as one, or you move together as a group.
Don't give away too much now.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, because after that, what the second level you mentioned, right? That's more like an individual journey at that point, and it becomes about everyone focusing on their specific destiny and all that. But Perunk, you have to do it together as a group, and it's interesting to me because today in our society, one of the biggest issues we deal with is individualism. You know, is the problem with just kind of looking out for ourselves, not even knowing how to work with other people, you know, divide and conquer. All of that is always playing. And then it's almost like the antidote of that is to, you know, be in a room and then you're fighting for something for yourself.
Right.
But you can't get there without everyone around you.
Because all those other people are fighting for the same thing, technically.
Yeah, but it takes some time. It takes time to get there. And then even once, it's not like once we graduate, we have our name that, you know, now it's like fixed. And,
right.
you know, it's something we have to keep working on.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
It's, I just want to add a little bit, and I just want to say, like, I don't think we've ever gotten there. I think we've had it at times.
The elder was waiting to say that.
Like, I think we've had it at times, but I think the thing that we kind of, and it just human nature, right? Is human nature, we seek out the comfort of familiarity and consistency. But particularly the consistency of working at something is something that we tend to neglect, but the consistency of comfort is something we choose to embrace. And the consistency of comfort in feeling like you can all be on the same page without working at it is a dishonest approach, because nothing in life can be made consistent unless you work at it. You have to work at being comfortable. Like, you have to work at letting go of something, essentially. Like, it has to be a conscious decision on some level. So I think we found it at times, but I don't think you could say that we have it, because it's something you work to keep, and it's something you work to attain, and it's something you work to stay at. It's not something that's given, it's something that's earned, and it takes effort every day. Being in a group environment or in a group process, there's going to be disagreements. And I think the easiest thing to kind of think about when you're in a group process is you can misunderstand and think that lack of conflict means good and the presence of conflict means bad. Whereas that in actuality, conflict means friction and friction means evolution. Whereas that the lack of friction, the lack of conflict speaks to a dishonesty. Because the truth of the matter is, most people, whether they want to admit it or not, don't like other people. And there are times where we like each other, and there are times where we don't like each other. There are times where we enjoy each other's company, and there are times where, frankly, you look at the other person and you're like, I hate that person's face. And it just depends. And it varies, but it takes work. It's not something that's easy. And that's the thing, is we work at it and we find it at times. And then the times where we don't find it, we just always remember to refocus on the fact that it's the goal that's bringing us together and not each other and not each other's personalities. And there's something that we need from one another. And that if you're willing to admit and have the humility and be humble that each one of us brings something to the table, then you can do something great by finding that cohesion by working together. But you earn it, you work for it, it's not easy, and it does not come without blood, sweat, tears, and farts.
Don't forget that part.
Yeah, I just want to add on to what the Tips is saying, right? So if you look at us, right, we come in different shape, color, size, you know, and
Some of us are pretty.
each and every one of us is bringing something, right? We have something with us that we're bringing. So to say that, oh, maybe it seems to, like, maybe appear to others that, oh, everything is well. But one thing I've learned, right, is that you could never know where in a house it's leaking unless you're in that house, unless you're dwelling in that house, right? So there's a lot of things that we experience, you know, like there's a lot of differences. And yes, you know, we have our ways, you know, each and every one of us have to be working on ourselves to kind of like evolve. And that takes time, that takes a process. So the key thing, right, is to like maintain that unity, like regardless of whatever it is, we must find a way to make it work. And I think like that's the key thing, you know, like me, I would like to share with the younger generation is that you need to find a way to work together, right? Yes, maybe you come together for a reason. That's the first thing. You know, this thing is not by chance. We're not sitting here together sharing the same name by chance. This is divinely ordained. So with that,
It's a cult. No, I'm kidding.
you need to you need to be able to willing to give up a lot of things, and as Tutipsa said, right, you need to have that humility and to focus on like what is it that bring you together. And I think that is something that you just need to work on. So don't look at this first generation and thinking that, oh, these are perfect beings. No, we're not.
Right.
We're imperfect beings. We all are sick people, right? Like literally sick people, right? That is trying to
special ed.
work together
Special ed, exactly.
to like have that unity and to achieve the goal that we came to work with, or to work on, to achieve.
Yeah, I think it's you guys are hitting it right on the head, because in this, I hate using this phrase, this modern world. It's the easiest phrase to use all the time, but it's true. In the modern world, it's so easy, right? With things like Instagrams, with things like the comment section, it's so easy to engage someone on something that you disagree about, and then when you don't want to respond anymore, you just take your hands off the keyboard, you put your phone down, and then you get to go do whatever you need to do. But when you're really going through something with somebody, when you're trying to reach a goal, all together, and you have to put the petty differences aside to focus on the goal, that's what builds character. That's what really can carry you and really help to bring humanity together, because y'all all have families, and now you guys as families have even come together in a different way that maybe never ever would have happened before. So these are ties that can go even beyond you all. Some of you will have kids one day, and those kids will know everyone else's kids, and those family bonds will go on forever. So it's a really important part of the journey. Tutipsa, did you have something, or can I continue with the questions?
Let's just take a question from the chat. Where are the shorts? No, I'm kidding. The question was, this looks like somebody's fake account, or like a burner account, Sidriel Seeker 77. They said, why do we need initiation in the West? And do white people teach in your schools? And
oh, I know that guy.
Yes. Why do we need initiation in the West? Because the Western world is the so-called leading civilization right now in terms of leading the world, and the only way you can say that humanity is not set on a path of destruction is if you're a liar. So it just goes to show that the West is leading the charge and is indoctrinating everybody, and what everybody tends to neglect, or everybody tends to refuse to acknowledge, is the fact that we live in a so-called post-colonial world, and that we fail to recognize and fail to acknowledge the fact that the world, or the civilization that's so-called leading the world, is the colonial civilization. So the colonizers won, and they dominated a majority of the world into subjugation and submission with their imperialism. And that's why we're all here sitting speaking English. That's why we're all sitting here speaking French, speaking Portuguese, speaking Spanish, speaking these colonial languages, these so-called first world superpowers. And with that being said, that means that they're the ones that have taught you. They're the ones that have educated you. They're the ones that tell you what to think, how to think, where to go, what to do, how to function, how to approach the world. So the reason why you need initiation in the West is because initiation is coming from you. And what I mean by that is it's coming from your ancestors. If it's coming from your ancestors, that means it's coming from the thing that they taught you that was evil, that was bad, that you should not go toward, that you should demonize, that you should step away from, that you should not acknowledge, that you should not look at. And yet all they've done is lead you away from yourselves. And that's why we need initiation in the West. And the question too, yes, white people do teach in our schools. Tiasta teaches in our school. Yeah, we have white people in other locations, and yes, they teach in our schools. So yes, white people teach in our schools, and white people are welcome to get initiated.
Can I take this question?
Go for it.
Because like leading from my previous answers to like how my daily life has changed through this is like every day now I have to wake up and figure out how I can be a good leader in this thing. Because
she's white. No, I'm kidding.
no, it's like all of us now, like all of us as the Maaheqwurrs, right? We have a school, right? We're the first generation of a school. Now we have generations coming after us. We have second, third, fourth, fifth. Now we're starting a sixth. And everyone who comes through these doors of initiation is educated and initiated to be a leader. So we don't initiate people just to sit like blobs and absorb information and go back and just like, you know, never speak about it. Because once you receive the initiation, now you're primed and prepped to become that super intelligent human being that can transmit and give this knowledge to other people. And it's a principle within the initiation itself. If you come, you get initiated, we're gonna put you up as a teacher. You know, we're gonna put you up in front of people to transmit this knowledge. You can't get knowledge and then keep it. So yeah, there are white people who teach. We all end up teaching. If you're an initiate, you're gonna be up in front of people teaching at some point in your initiation.
Yeah, and that's a good question. Why we need this initiation in the West? I like to talk about dualism. Now, there's the reality, and then there's the illusion. And unfortunately, where we are now in the West, the illusion has become our reality. And a lot of people don't like us in the Earth Center because
It's a cult. No, I'm kidding.
because we don't really have concerns for this illusion. You know, we let people know, listen, the name that you carry belongs to the oppressor, it's not yours. The language that you're speaking belongs to the oppressor, it's not yours. Your life that you're living is based on a calendar that was made, again, to enslave you. So if your whole life is supposed to be important, it's supposed to mean something to you, and it's based on something, on illusion, your life is just an illusion. It's not a reality. And these are many reasons why the initiation is needed.
You had something to add, right?
I already said my.
Oh, you already said it. Yeah, just going to some of the other questions in the chat before we get back to some of the initiate questions is meaning of evolution and meaning of revolution. Well, the question is if you want to talk about evolution, then you have to ask what would you consider evolution? Because evolution has to come with some sort of notion, meaning that there's like some evolving, like something is progressing. So then you could progress toward anything, right? It's not like a Pokemon where it's like, you know, the evolution of a Pokemon is like you start a Squirtle and then you go to War Turtle and then you become Blastoise. It's like, yeah, I played Pokemon growing up.
You know your stuff.
Yeah, I know my stuff. You know, I can do more if you want. Yeah. But it's sort of like this notion of evolution comes from really like the world of the gods. It comes from the divine world in terms of evolution. So that word can get thrown around a lot in terms of evolution and re-evolution, but it has to be placed within its proper context in terms of coming from the divine world. So, you know, the meaning of evolution and revolution, you know, I'm not going to spell it out completely because we also want to build thinkers, but to speak on something that would involve evolution, you would have to talk about something or a notion that's coming from the divine world. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add before we jump to some of the more the initiatic questions. I could feel Terry's shot itching. So.
No, I just wanted to add something simple, right? Because nowadays the word revolution has kind of become cheap. A lot of people use it. A lot of people think, you know, what they're doing, what they've subscribed to can be counted as a revolution.
They think their existence is a revolution, mere existence.
Or revolutionary. Yeah. But when we say the revolution has begun, or when we use the word revolution, we're not using it lightly. And even if you just think about the word revolution, there's a concept of movement that comes with it. But if you look at history and you look at all the so-called revolutions that have happened in history, and you see that, okay, people came together, people were working towards something, you know, even there's little, you know, wins, quote unquote wins here and there that make people feel like what they're fighting for, they're actually getting, they're getting somewhere. But even if you look 50 years back and you look at all the revolutions, even if you're just talking about the US and you look at all the revolutions that happened in the 60s, the 70s, all of that. Today, where are we now as the world, as society, and even as people, as individuals, where are we now? Did we actually move somewhere? And then if we moved somewhere, did we really move forward? Or did we move backwards? And that concept of revolution or movement and our perception around it has really been, you know, toyed with. So when we're talking about revolution and then giving you an opportunity to really be something, that revolution has to start with you first, because that's the only way then you can make any difference in anything around you.
Hit it.
All right. More questions for the cult.
No, more questions from the cult. For the cult.
From the cult, for the cult. Funny word, though. It's a funny word.
Yeah.
That word.
We are a cult.
All right.
For the culture.
Yeah.
So, first question. As the first generation, what is the most important thing that you did that has set this temple up for the future?
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big question.
That's a big question. That's a big
good
question.
one.
The most important thing. That's the question.
You're going to give it to...
I love how you guys in unison all went. I would say this. It's not from us. And I don't mean that in like a pseudo, like humble or like a pseudo humility type of thing where I'm like, it's not us. I'm being serious and saying like it's not from us, because there's a model, and all of us are here based on something that our ancestors made a vow to do at some point. And I say that because like when you really learn real history, and I'm not talking about the history that's in history books, I'm talking about some pieces of history and some pieces of the story that are in the book of history that are not in history books, that are not written, that are passed down from generation to generation through oral history, through the transmission of being in the same room and passing that along. And it's something that can't be written down. It's something that can't be fabricated. It's something that must be awakened. And it being awakened is something that stems from the blood flowing through your veins, that comes from those that walked the earth before you, that did something that was not a part of the modern world as we know it. So we can't sit up here and then say, well, it's me or it's us, because it's not. It's something we inherited through the legacy, and the legacy that's in our blood. We say that your ancestral achievements are laying dormant in the blood and only need to be activated. So it's not me. It's something that's in me that I'm either able to kind of awaken and listen to and kind of learn how to adjust and submit to, that will guide me and that will allow me to kind of make decisions. So it's not us. It's the things that are standing behind us. It's the things that contribute to our composition that make us who we are, and those are our ancestors. And that's why we take the time to acknowledge the things that are standing behind us. And this is not like this is not me saying this trying to like sound deep. This is me talking about the reality of the situation. And the reality of the situation is that anything that you could see us planting a seed now for it to come to fruition later in the future, is a result of something that can see you and you cannot see it, guiding you and kind of whispering to you in your ear and kind of planting that idea in your consciousness through some way, some form. I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of it because we'll be here all night, but through some way. And then if you're listening, if you're giving yourself a little bit of time to kind of sit around and think, then you'll be able to kind of tune into it and listen to it. So I would say the thing that we set up in the temple to allow us to give something to the generations coming after us was, we understood very early on that it has to do with us doing that, with us understanding that it's not us.
So like instilling the ethic by sort of expressing that ethic through your own actions.
Exactly. So the ethic in which you must instill is the ethic that you're just the current baton holder in this overarching existence, and your one life is just one page or maybe one word on a page of a much more overarching book. And it's more like, what are you going to do with that word? What are you going to do with that page? So I think we were just lucky to kind of have the wherewithal and the teachers and the exposure and the conditioning to kind of be like, you know what, maybe this is more than just what we want it to be. And then let's not fall into the trap of trying to make it what we want it to be, and let's just make it what it is and make the best of what it is, and make sure that we just remain focused on the goal. And in remaining focused on the goal, then that's the way you kind of become impenetrable. Because if it's a revolution, then the thing that makes revolutions fall is the focus on the pettiness and the personalities and the bullshit that everybody kind of brings to the table. Instead of being like, you know, like maybe my brother's just having a bad day, or maybe my sister just going through a hard time. And then just kind of understanding that, you know, it is what it is. And then you just find a way to, you know, work on yourself and make the focus on ensuring that that ethic is able to be instilled in the children, and that ethic is able to be instilled in the generations coming after you, the initiates coming after you, so that they can grab that baton and hold that baton and then pass that baton to the generations and those coming after them. So, you know, we're just holding the baton, and we're just making sure that we can run right, run within our lane, run to the best of our ability, and pass that baton to the next runner.
Yeah, so just to sort of segue into the next question, and you guys can chime in on that same thing, because it's sort of related even with where Tutipsa was going with his answer, because there are children that are a part of this temple, right, that have sort of been going through this initiation with all of us, like even when you guys were in Parang, and the second generation was then joining Parang behind you guys. We had like a temple baby that's been here like the whole time and going through the whole thing. And even seeing him here, I remember Tutipsa being like, man, this is really for that guy, you know? And then it takes on a much larger implication that's so far beyond you that you know now, like, okay, I have to take this serious because I'm going to have to give this to him one day, you know? And then that's going to really be the test of how well we transmitted what we got our hands on. So this next question is, how has your knowledge of your ancestors changed since becoming a Kebtai initiate? Anybody can really chime in, and you know, the two questions connect, so you can still expound upon that one
I mean, that's another big question.
I'm not taking it. I've been talking a lot.
I mean, like my ancestors on both sides are from Ireland. So I know this, I mean, this seems, you know, coming into a tradition like this, you know, on the surface, you can look at it as like, oh, well, that's just like a school for like African spirituality, right? But this mission, the mission of Kebta is so much bigger and is connects us all as humans across cultures, across races, because the foundation and the origin point of where this is coming from really set up everything that we have for humanity in terms of spirituality, philosophy, science, astronomy, the knowledge that was existing and living and is still existing and living on the land of Merita. In Africa, this initiation is so vast that it has connected me back to even the way that my ancestors functioned. Many, many generations back, and the things that they had spiritually and what they were standing on now, even in my research and going and traveling back to my lands and seeing the things and the structures that are on that land and how they connect back to the things I'm learning in initiation, the things now I've seen with my own eyes in Africa, in West Africa, and returning to these original temples now illuminates all of these things that I wouldn't have necessarily researched in my own ancestry, and have brought me back to like an origin point for myself. And even like going back to the question that Tutipsa was like answering, how this is like bigger than us, this is a bigger mission than us. It's like now I get to understand how many generations my ancestors had to suffer and go through and live life and have experiences to get me to this point in time. And now even on a broader level, how people had to suffer and fight to preserve this big mission, to even have this mission in place, this level of knowledge and initiation be preserved, is like now you actually have to say thank you to the lineages that preserve this, the Dogon, the Gormanche, Master Naba, opening this up now that we have this original knowledge that can even connect me back to my people.
That's wild. I don't know if y'all realize out there in TV land, this white lady is saying that
It's a cult.
This cult is at one point it had worldwide implications, and it's about the indigenous lifestyle that all over the world was prevalent at one point. You know, it's not just we're getting it from Africa because Africa preserved it. Africa held on to it. They started it, right? They made sure that it got its start, but then it continued as well. So
It expanded.
It expanded. This is a worldwide thing. So same reason we have white people teaching is the same reason that anybody in the world could end up coming through these doors and
I want to say
doing that
something
honor
about
for their
that
ancestors.
White people
Yes.
talk, because it's so funny, right?
Get them, Cynthia.
You know, I trace my
Say it in
lineage.
patois.
You know, I imitate Bonnie. Anyway, I'm from Jamaica, but it's so funny how people see color. Usually, I mean, before I came here, I usually see color, but even coming here and
Their center will cure your racism.
and even coming here
Cue
and
the
learning.
prescription ad. Will not blah 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 blah.
And even coming here and learning about ancestors, learning about, you know, humanity and everything. I went back as far as to even understand that even my great-great-great-grandfather was white. Just think about how people are now trying to highlight this, this knowledge, it's for only black people and all of that. If some of us trace our lineage all the way back, we have some white people in our family. So seeing color has nothing to do with the knowledge that you're trying to pass down. Color has nothing to do, because if you really look at this lady, she's not white and I'm not black. If we're really talking about color. So that has nothing to do with ancestors, that has nothing to do with culture, that has nothing to do with the knowledge that we're learning in order to feed our spirits. Our spirits don't have color. So at the end of the day, we need to stop that.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. You know, we just did a for those out there in TV land who are watching, we just did a live stream the other day on the Kepta Instagram about what color is your spirit, what race is your spirit, because it's something that comes up a lot. So check that out, give that some views. But to get on to this next question.
Wait, I think you had something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, about the view of the ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Like before coming here, I had no idea of ancestors, no idea of myself.
Mm.
And not just the dead relatives, the dead ancestors, but even our living ancestors. Like, I had no relationship with my mother or my father until I understood the power that they had over me, until I understood the importance of the connection that we have and how it affects my life. And that was so deep, so important. Even 4 months after starting initiation, my father had passed. And I feel like if I didn't learn the things that I learned in the initiation, I don't know how that would have affected me in a negative way. I don't know how I would have reacted. But now, understanding what I know now, I have a better relationship with my father now, even though he's not here in the physical. Even my mother, like, we can talk now. Now we're close. And, you know, spirituality is about family. I don't know, you know, what would be more greater than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's big. That's big. Those are big principles that play out in your life. You know, your mom and your dad, like Irisawa was saying earlier, what price could you pay your mom to bring you into this world? You know, what price could you pay your father to, like, you weren't there before that. And without them making that decision to bring you here, you know, you wouldn't have this opportunity to enjoy this life. So that's big. That's powerful. Anybody else before we roll to this next question? Make it brief.
See Terry Sharp.
This is like my favorite question.
Yeah,
So
like a light to a crack pipe. She's like, yeah. She's like,
Let's hear it, Teddy Shot.
what about me?
No, this is really like, this is, I guess, one of, because initiation is tough, you know, being part of this process and signing up for this, it's tough. But this aspect of kind of building that relationship or understanding has honestly been one of the most rewarding parts of this for myself. The way that I grew up, you know, I grew up going to temples. I grew up even in my own house, like having pictures of, you know, ancestors and recognizing their existence. But in my own culture, the way those things were there, I didn't really understand how to actually go about it or what was really the basis. They were there. You know, I saw my family, like, we would do certain things for the ancestors, you know, for the deities, things like that. But I never really understood the background of it. So now going through this process and then kind of learning how to do that for myself, and then even learning what my own culture is about, what I have at home, you know, what the logic is behind all of those things that my elders have been holding, you know, that I've been watching all my life. It's like now I actually can fit into my own culture, even in the present, by understanding the past. And then the most, you know, like, riveting part about all of this too is that when you go through the initiation, it's not just about you and then day to day in life, you know, going through all of that. It's also the initiation that's happening in the invisible. So it's about setting yourself up in a way where it's your own ancestors, it's your own deities, it's everything that you're part of, that's part of you, that's coming to actually initiate you, that's coming to actually teach you and elevate you and help you know how to fit into that equation. So going through this process and doing those things to kind of stabilize myself, and then now, whether it's through my dreams, whether it's through different manifestations, that I can see how my ancestors are actually, you know, teaching me and still a part of my everyday life. That's one of the things, like, I'm still working on building that and building myself to be able to stand in a way where, you know, they can kind of count on me, you know, and that I'm walking the way I need to. But that's been one of the most, you know, valuable things. And like Bizati said, you know, I grew up with my grandparents all my life, and I had the four of them as my basis, like, all my life, part of my education and all of that. And last year when my big uncle transitioned, luckily, going through this initiation, I knew what to do. I knew how to help him. I knew how to continue, that relationship past death. And then now I know when I still need something, I know how to go talk to him. And then, maybe he comes in my dreams. Maybe I receive certain messages. Maybe, there's ways to have that and have that guidance continue to go. So it's really incredible. Like, I've learned so much, even about my own family history, 5 generations ago, what my family used to do, what we were responsible for, and all of that. And it's questions that maybe I had access to, but it's questions I never knew to ask.
Right.
But now knowing how to ask those questions or learning how to, I'm getting closer to myself. And that's what, this initiation, it's not about worshiping someone else's ancestors, someone else's culture or anything. It's about you, and it's about your own culture and the fact that someone or some people preserved what they had so well that now that can serve as a bridge for you to get back to yourself. So I'm someone who's benefiting from that, and all of us here have benefited from that, but it's about you and yourself first and what you're really coming from.
Yeah. That's Teddy Shot dropped the bomb, man. If my arms were long enough, I'd press the button, but I can't reach it. So there's only a few more questions. This one is, what qualities of your character, and I want maybe 1 or 2 people to speak to this, but you gotta remember to be specific, because it's asking what qualities of your character grew within your initiation and how has it helped you in life. So if anyone can be very specific, this is like a really personal question. What qualities of your character grew within that process, and how have you seen that like helping you now?
Yeah, I could talk to that. So like before,
First question, we've seen Bizati rush to answer.
Right.
Yeah, nah, man, it's like story of your life, man. It's like, so before coming here, I was like so unstable, financially, mentally, all the least. Sleeping in my mom's garage, not working, having no money, just, my mindset, I just was ready to go. I was just like, I was done with life. There was nothing to hold on to. I didn't see the purpose. I didn't see the point of it. But then coming in here again, getting the instructions, getting your purpose, I never visioned myself being able to be independent from my moms. Like, I was living with my moms up until like the age 20-something, close to 30, and I was just so dependent on her. And coming here forced me to really see that I could do for myself. I could do without my mother, and it was just so powerful. Not even just my mother, but like thinking that you're dependent on the system, having to work and having to slave for the oppressor. It's not about that. There's goals. There's something that you have to do. There's something that you have to achieve, and you have to achieve it not by any means necessary, but it's going to take hard work. Sometimes you're going to do things that you're not going to want to do. And that was my mindset. I didn't want to do anything that I just didn't want to do. But coming here is like, all right, I seen how much it was for initiation, and the price didn't bother me. I was just like, all right, at first I didn't want to work. Now I'm going to work. It is what it is. I'm going to get this information. I'm going to get my culture. I'm going to make sure I pass this down to my kids. I didn't even want to have kids. I was like, why would I bring kids into this world? And then now I understand, like, I'm thinking, like, that's a good thing. Not bringing kids into this world is a good thing, but that's the worst thing I could ever done for myself, for my bloodline. And now I understand that I have to keep pushing. I have to work hard. I have to make sure that I stay dependent, independent, my fault. Make sure I take care of myself. Make sure I'm taking care of my wife. Make sure that when my kids come, I'm taking care of them, and that they get this information, they get this knowledge, and know the importance of continuing it and passing it down for generation to generation.
So 2 things, Bazati, because one, I want you to touch on something that sort of speaks to the same question, because you yourself and I believe Cynthia as well, you guys were a part of another generation before this, and so you guys have even more experience, like going like further back with like sort of the quality of your character being tested, you know, by this initiation, you know, through a lot of different circumstances. And I just wanted to say that the point that you were making, Bazati, is big right now, because if this world isn't a place that you can think of as good for children to be, then why don't you do something, right? It makes sense to do something to change yourself, to bring that to the world, and then bring those children to the world and teach that to them as well, so they can be the ones who do it behind you. You know, that's what Tutisa was talking about before. But yeah, Cynthia and Bazati, if you guys could sort of kind of continue on that same sense of how those qualities of your character were really challenged and grew through your experiences before with this generation, like the differences between, you know, the generations before and this one.
I mean, being in the first generation, the 13th generation in New York, you know, it was more like there wasn't that much challenge.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't as challenging as being in this generation. You know, it's more like just getting the information and, you know, we're here to get our name. More so like it. You know, that's what I have gained from it. And there wasn't no drive, no push to really get there, get the information you want. It's more like, let's just get this information and get out of here. Versus, you know, learning that it's not just getting the information, it continues, because even going through that process, you're working on yourself. You're working on, you know, your shortcomings. You're working on raising your qualities. You're working on realizing what is within you that needs to be fixed. You know, you're learning through that process. But like I said, you know, the challenge wasn't really there in that generation versus now, because with my generation, yes, we went through a lot in that little box. Every time we get into that little box, we go through a process of
What box?
the coach.
Oh yeah, but what box?
No,
I'm
when
like,
we
what
when we
box
get in a room.
Oh, you talking about that? Oh,
when
you talking
we
about
get
that?
in a room.
office.
You talking about that office at
Yeah,
the at
office
the Newark
and
Temple?
right.
Yeah, the first.
Right. When we
Location.
go in there and we're challenging ourselves, we come to face with our shortcomings. It's like there was a push for us to realize, like, don't you see that? You know, we would be button heads, but it's to help us to raise our qualities. When we butt heads, it's only to make us better. So there was a challenge
Cynthia,
there.
who
and
did you butt heads with the most in
the
this
most?
generation?
Everybody.
It was
Nah.
fair game, really?
They know
Don't lie.
themselves.
We have some fire, we have some water in this generation. We have some earth, we have a lot of fire.
Yeah, we have a lot of fire. Too much sometimes. Yeah, but the challenge was good. I appreciated it, you know, and so funny. I left from Jamaica not even to come to know. I'm here, left from Jamaica to come make money, go home to my family, but I came here and find more than that. I found initiation. I found something that can help me to help my family, because what I thought was really a family, it's like something that is not making you responsible for your shortcomings or working on your qualities. There was no goal. And realizing it through initiation helps me to understand my shortcomings where I can work on it. You know, and this initiation actually helps me to see where I'm falling short. I'm still working on myself. I'm an angry person, right? Like they said, we are fires. I'm one of the main fires.
Really?
One of. No, we have a main, bigger fire, but you know,
Couldn't
I'm
have guessed it.
you know, but
Who is it?
they know themselves. you know. But anyways, you know, through the initiation, it has helped me to start acknowledging where I need to work on with myself. And just by going through it with my brothers and sisters here, it pushes me to places that I do not want to go, but it highlights where I need to go in order to work on myself. And I appreciated that.
Can anybody, because there's a question that says, when did you notice you began to shift from studying to embodying this work? Like, does anyone have a story or like a certain point in the initiation where it started to become very apparent to you that, you know, you can't just like go home with the notes? Like, you have to live every day, like with the information that you have, and like use it.
So, just to speak a little bit on that, right? One thing that I've learned is that coming into this is not just about gathering information, because if you just coming into this just to like to have some information or to become knowledgeable, and maybe, you know, you can enter some conversation and then you kind of like look nice because you probably know more than another person, then I think that that's the biggest mistake that you would be making, because this information needs to be part of you. Your life have to be the testimony of the information that you're receiving. And the people that is around you should be the one to really like see the evolution that your life is going through, right? And you know, the thing that I've learned is that sometimes just the little small changes, because as you get this information, you need to internalize it, and it will take you through like changes, right? But you just need to focus in on it like baby steps, like little by little. And over maybe a period of 3, 4, 5 years, then you can see like a big change. So technically, I'm speaking for myself, right? Is I'm still working on myself to embody this information, embody this knowledge, so that I can transform my life and be an example for those that is looking at me, because you know, you never know who you could be influencing. You know, the way you live in, people may looking at you, people may admiring you, and at least you, with your actions and your behavior, may be misleading like a ton of people.
So there's only, we have 2 more questions, one from the chat.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's take some from the chat.
Okay.
Because I see some from the chat.
There was one from the chat that I wanted to bring up. Tesh W asks, any advice for someone with strong Christian roots that is considering this path? I've tried a few times to get more info on initiation and haven't gotten any email. IDK, if that's a sign that I shouldn't.
We skipped Matthew's second question. Sorry, Matthew. But I would say, you know, Christianity has a history, and then it's important to know the history of Christianity and to know that the Christianity has its roots in Kemetic spirituality, and in that Christianity is just a really bad knockoff of Kemetic spirituality, of African indigenous spirituality. And I would say that if you feel the call toward Kepta and the Kemetic knowledge, the African indigenous knowledge, then I would say there's a reason why. Because even if you identify with Christianity so deeply and so strongly, there's probably a reason as to why you feel so connected to it. And it's because it's sort of like sort of like a warm pillow to hold at night instead of having a real person to sleep next to. And that very warm pillow is Christianity. And that person that you're like actually seeking, because who that warm pillow is supposed to take the place of, that's Christianity. I'm sorry, that's Kemetic, African indigenous spirituality. So it goes deep. The rabbit hole goes deep, and sometimes when I can't speak to where you haven't been able to get a response from, because I don't know where you've been emailing, but you can be sure to email us, even if you need to email the New Jersey Temple, and then we can be sure to get somebody from Chicago to get back to you, because I know that there's Chicago initiates, and I know that if maybe there's some correspondences that are falling through the cracks, it's not on purpose, and we'll be sure to get them in contact with you. So you can even drop your email in the chat, and we can make sure to get that to some of the Chicago initiates to make sure that they get back to you. I would say, run toward the resistance. Don't run from the resistance, because resistance sometimes is a sign of what you need to do, not an indication to run away. So if you're getting challenges and then you're like, should I do it because it seems so tough to kind of get there, sometimes that's an indication to do it, not to run away. So that's counterintuitive, that's counterproductive to our human nature and the comforts that we seek out, because the way that New Age spirituality will kind of kick it to you, and the way that religion will kick it to you, especially if you're coming from a heavy Christian background, is it's only right if it feels easy. And it's only right if it feels like there's no resistance. And New Age spirituality will make it all about aligning and, the ease of manifestation and all that kind of nonsense. And it's not like that. That's not real life. So, I would say look into it further. We'll get you in contact with somebody from Chicago, and then, we'll try and get you the information. I would also, the question from Matthew Ruta, because I know we've been neglecting Matt all night. Is
Matt's an initiate in the chat.
I know, exactly. Matt's basically out there like an initiate.
And everything.
Is why did the elders wait so long to share Kemetic teachings with the public, besides a prophecy of someone like Master Naba coming along and persuading them? I'm assuming besides a prophet of someone like Master Naba, because he couldn't be a prophecy. But who wants to take that?
Because the time just wasn't right. The elders, they understand the cycles of the cosmos. They understand the dialogue of energies that's going on. And there's an order. And we have to follow that order. We can't make nature fit to us. We have to fit within nature. So the time just wasn't right. But now, as you can see, we're going through this woke era, and we're waking up. We are reaching for our roots. We want to go back home. We see that we're on the wrong path. And even now, through this woke era, everyone's waking up. Still, there's a lot of people that still are scared, still would see this and reject it. So imagine, how it was back then, if it's still being rejected now. So.
And we live in the age where people are alleging that, they're their ancestors' wildest dreams, and, like things. We live in a post-colonial world, and it's not accepted. Like, just because they're not chopping your head off or burning you at the stake like they used to, or killing you or burning you alive in a square, and that would be commissioned by the church, that would be commissioned by the Pope, or it'd be commissioned for you to go become a religious warrior, to go rape and pillage and convert the non-believers, doesn't mean it's gone, because that mentality still exists.
Yeah, but if you just look look into nature, right, and look at a plant, or even look at yourself, right? Why is it that you now walk in when you're born? Look at a cat. When a cat born, you know, you will get up and you will walk maybe the next day, right? But you as a human being maybe take a year. So everything got a process, right? And the time that this is happening is the right time, because it's well calculated. It's something that is coming from nature, right? And, you know, it's just the time for this. So if it is that you are even asking the question now, right, then this is the time for you to receive these answers. So everything is, you know.
I'm just going to add a little bit more just to kind of shock everybody, because I know this is going to sound crazy, is this Kepta is a mission that's been around for hundreds of thousands of years. And it predates anything that the colonial system claims to have knowledge or historical evidence of. And I'll say this, the prophecy of someone opening up the doors of the Kemetic knowledge to the rest of the world has been around for thousands of years, which means this is a prophecy that came from our temples a long, long time ago. And you have to understand that our calendar in and of itself functions off of 1,461 years to just count one passing, like technically 1 second in terms of one completion of a cycle. So if that gives you an insight into how long this civilization has been around, that means that 1 year for us on our calendar is damn near been around as long as the Gregorian calendar, because the Gregorian calendar, we're in 2023. So it means that you're dealing with the OGs. So they knew what they were doing when they hid it and when they put it away, and they knew there would be a time. And when you're dealing with ancestors, we like to say during the time of the great ancestors, when you're dealing with the ancestors that were around during the time of the great ancestors, you were dealing with people that had a vision, and that had a clairvoyance, and that had a way of living that is damn near extinct in this day and age. And that's why their structures are still around. That's why everything that the colonial so-called superpowers stand on are artifacts that they stole from the time of the great ancestors. The reason why the Jews get to parade around and say that they're the God's chosen people is because they have artifacts from the time of the great ancestors. The reason why the Crown in the UK gets to say that they're, you know, standing the way that they're standing is because they have our artifacts that they sit on. The reason why the Arabs get to bring everybody to Mecca the way that they do is because they're using our artifacts. It's the same way that the Jews have them in Jerusalem. So for those that don't know, we're here to tell you that now is the time, because now essentially the Kemetic daddy is home.
Hey. If no one else has anything for that, this is a funny last question.
Well,
didn't even
let them do all the initiatic questions, because I know some people are gonna feel.
No, this is the last initiatic question. It's
Okay.
just a funny one that I saved it for last. I didn't even mean to. It's for you, Tutipsa. It's specific for you. It says, for Tutipsa, how long did it take everyone to follow your lead as the mayor? Because for those of you out there who don't know what the mayor is, just to give you a small taste, we'll talk more about this in the registration event, but every generation has a leader, right? And the leader of this generation is Tutipsa. So, Tutipsa, how long did it take to get them in line?
It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. So whoever asked that question, I don't know, because it hasn't happened. So when it happens, I will answer that question. But it's not there yet, you know, because it's like, to say that, then it would mean that like I'm putting a stop on all of our evolution, or I'm saying that I'm able to quantify my evolution, or his, hers, and his. Like, it's just not possible. So I would say that as long as I'm alive, and as long as they're alive, then it's gonna continue, and it's gonna continue to be there. And I would just say, like, but it's not really about, what was the question about how long did it take
everyone to follow your lead?
I would say that that seems like a question that's coming from somebody that maybe doesn't understand like what true leadership is. And true leadership is about being about it, not talking about it. And the thing is, this is energy doesn't lie. So people aren't going to follow or do what you say. They're going to follow and do what you do. So you have to understand that leading people is really, it's about your ability to have something, first and foremost, have something within you that actually considers you a leader, that makes you a leader. Because I think everybody thinks nowadays you can just be a leader just because, and a lot of times that's not the case. You have to have actually leadership in you, which means it has to be something that your ancestors signed up for. So if your ancestors signed up for being a leader, then it sucks to be you, because it means that you have to be a leader, whether you want to be a leader or not. And I would say that leaders don't try and get people to follow them. Leaders just do what they do. And whether or not people follow them, they do what needs to be done. And whether or not someone chooses to call you a leader doesn't make you a leader. Because being a leader, you either are a leader or you aren't. But whether or not you have the capability to get things done on a larger scale will depend upon your leadership skills. That is different. But to be a leader, you either are a leader or you're not. But to have people follow you as a leader, the only way you can say that people follow you as a leader is if they choose to follow you. It's a decision on someone else's part to follow you and actually give you the ability to lead. So being a leader and leading, or to lead, are two different things. So I don't want those two things to be confused. So I would say that it hasn't happened, because it comes and it goes. But it comes and it goes based on ultimately the way that I function. So it's not about, I never look at anybody else and say, why isn't this person following me? I'm more so always looking about, what have I done to not get this person involved? Or how have I failed this person in not getting them involved? And can I do something different to get them involved? And then if you change your tactics and you adjust yourself and adjust your tactics, then maybe, just maybe, you can maybe help that person become the best version of themselves. And you can maybe, just maybe, put that person in a position to succeed or bring something out of themselves that they didn't think was possible for themselves. But that comes with experience, and that comes with time. And I would say that I don't look at the rest of my generation trying to get them to follow me. I just look at ways to think about, how can I help this person move forward in their life? And sometimes that looks nice. Sometimes it doesn't look nice. Sometimes it feels nice. Sometimes it doesn't feel nice. Sometimes it hurts my heart. Sometimes it hurts somebody else's heart. And it's a dance. It's a constant adjustment and readjustment of energies. And it's difficult. And I would say that if you think you're a leader, or if you're asking that question, that's a strange question. I don't know who asked that question. But
maybe they want to be a leader.
Yeah, I would say that maybe you thinking that you're a leader or trying to ask that kind of question, I would say that that's a very dangerous kind of question to ask.
Or maybe they're seeing something, or maybe there's some smoke that masking the real thing, because what they might be seeing, right, is not actually what it is. So if that's the case, then I would say that you're doing a good job, because if you're working behind the scene to make everything right, and it seems to people that, oh, everything is right, then that means you're getting somewhere, you're covering some grounds. So
I actually do have one more question from the younger generation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there was one more. This one is a little bit different. We're going to give a shout out to Acosta on this one. What changes have you seen in your life after getting a reading? And
I was gonna say,
spiritual
yeah,
work
there's more.
done for
Yeah.
you and your family?
I mean, that's a huge question again.
And you can give some context for the people out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on 3 pilgrimages now to Medita, to our healing center in Hedaishat. I first went in Parang, and then next year I went for 2 months, and then the year after I was in Medita for 5 months. So I've gotten a lot of spiritual work done. I've gotten a lot of readings. I've really engaged with trying to fix the gaps in my ancestry and my own destiny and my own reincarnation, and all of the things that come up in readings are very personal. They're very targeted to what you need specifically, like what your individual needs are. Now this is like beyond the initiation, beyond the generation itself. It's like readings themselves can open up avenues for you to heal parts of your lineage that you didn't know were broken, can reconnect you to parts of your lineage and your destiny or your divinities connected to your bloodline that you didn't know existed. So it's just a very deep process, and I just recommend anyone who's having that question or wanting to get engaged with the reading process is just take it step by step. You know, look at our website, anhlife.org, and you know, call our phone number. Any one of us are happy to talk to you about what the process of a reading actually is, what it looks like, and then what the larger process is following through with ceremonies and really fixing those things in your lineage that need to be righted, to need to be turned around through these spiritual ceremonies that oftentimes happen in Medita, in the temples in West Africa. It's huge that we even have access to this kind of spiritual technology, access to these original temples. So I just recommend you just do your research and call us, and we're happy to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about this a little bit, I think it's funny because nowadays, like, people are so regular, whether it's like getting your annual checkup, you know, going to the doctor, or even you probably spend more time taking care of your teeth, you know, or going to the dentist than actually, you know, thinking about, okay, the part of you that's unseen, the invisible part, and how do you take care of that? How do you take care of your energies? And me personally, I mean, I think if anyone really saw how I was maybe 5-6 years ago, I don't think anyone, you know, you guys would recognize me. But just even growing up, I think it was 16 when it started, like, I started going through a lot of instability, you know, mental health issues, like a lot of just instability, you know, and kind of starting at that young age. And went through so many different avenues of trying to find a solution to that, but nothing really got to the core of it. And then to finally kind of come to a place that has that understanding of the invisible and the invisible parts of you, and then to get a divination to find out, oh, okay, like, you know, I have a lot of spiritual things, or I have certain aspects of myself that have never really been put together with me. I have it, maybe I was born with certain things, but it hasn't been harmonious with me. And just kind of walking through life, not really being myself, or not really having all the ingredients that make me up together, can lead to that kind of instability, can lead to all those kind of issues. You know, even today, a lot of the issues like the younger generations are going through, people all ages are going through, you know, you might think that, it's a pill that's going to resolve it, therapy, this and that. Not to say those things can't help, but how can you take into consideration what can really move you forward if you're not recognizing, a big part of yourself, the invisible part. And the benefit of this is that this culture understands that part. It's a very old culture. It's a very mature culture that had the humility to investigate that part and then master that part. So for me personally, my whole life has changed. Like I can't even recognize myself from who I was before. But it's really that stability that has built up for me, and I'm still working on it. I'm still fighting for it. But over the years, taking my spirituality really seriously in terms of taking care of my, spiritual works, being proactive about checking my energies, filling in those holes like Tiasa was talking about, even for my family, even though I'm coming from a culture that's very old as well, having those practical solutions and shifting the energies in my life, that's something that I had to come, here and kind of work on and get. And even today, I like the fact that I don't have to go through life just kind of blind, just like floating in the wind, not really knowing how to take ownership for myself or my family. And what I've been able to do and the guidance I've been able to get on how to protect, how to cleanse, how to take care of myself, the foundation of my family, and then even reconnect to the old heritage, and add all of that to who I am today. I don't have to be walking around asking that question, who am I? Because those pieces are coming together, and then now I actually have something to stand on.
I want to add to that. It's so funny how, I grew up in a Christian home. I'm from Jamaica. I grew up in a Christian home. When it comes to spirituality, it's all about Jesus in the Christian home. However, when their back is against the wall, we're talking about the ancestors. We're talking about spirituality. When their back is against the wall, they're sick and they're almost ready to die. That's the time they start talking about their dreams. That's the time they want to go to the bush doctor. That's the time they want to read in. That's the time they want all that stuff. And as soon as they're okay, they're going back to their Jesus, going back to their Bible. Not having an understanding of the spiritual world. They do believe in dreams in Jamaica, traditionally. But when it comes to the concept of even doing divination, doing reading and stuff like that, it's only when their back is against the wall. They be like, oh, I need a reading. Oh, I'm about to die. Oh, I need to find a bushman. Oh, I need to find a obia man. I need to find That's the only time when they seek for divination, seek to get a better understanding of the spiritual world, not realizing that everything has to be spiritual before it becomes physical. And it's very important because even myself, like I grew up in a Christian home, voodoo, obi and all that stuff. Christians, they will go when it's late, early in the morning when nobody can see them. That's the time they go.
Oh, they hide to do it.
Yeah, they hide. They hide and go seek information, seek divination. And it has changed my life so much, but I've grown up in the tradition wherein, we go seek help when we need it, not to look at it like, this is what really helped me. They still hold on to their Jesus. So it's very important to have that divination in your life, understanding the things that you come with, because we all come with different things, and not being able to understand what we comes with, that's where we find the imbalance within ourselves. So just wanted to add to that.
It would not be a Maaheqwurr live stream if we all felt like we needed to answer the question. And, the thing about, can you repeat the question one more time? The readings question?
The question is, what changes have you seen in your life after getting a reading and spiritual works done for you and your family?
I would say it's like night and day. And I would say it's like night and day because the thing is is a lot of the people that you see walking around, and this may include you, because I know it includes me, is you don't know that you come from spiritual people. And what I mean by saying spiritual people, I mean people that have a background in Kemetic spirituality, and that's regardless of skin tone, and that's regardless of, you know, like where you are located on the planet, because we say the blood travels fast. And I would say that if you don't know you're a spiritual person, it might be because the drugs that you're being given are robbing you of that ability to be spiritual. Because what they're doing is they're giving you certain drugs to kill off that spiritual ability or that spiritual sense or that little voice that kind of, you know, tells you things that maybe tell you not to leave the house at a certain time. And then you find out that you may have missed an accident just because of that little voice that kind of stopped you from maybe leaving at that time, or a little voice that kind of tells you, you know, like, hey, you know, maybe I shouldn't go do this thing, or maybe, no, don't leave at this time, or so on and so forth, whatever it is. But they want to shut that off, and they want to shut that off, and then they want to tell you that you're crazy, or they want to tell you that there's something wrong with you, or they want to tell you that there's something wrong with those things that are standing behind you, whether it's your ancestors, whether it's, you know, like a genie, you know, you name it, whatever it is, because those things are coming from somewhere. And I would say it's night and day, because when you come from spiritual people and you finally get the opportunity to start harmonizing those energies, it's like night and day. It is like night and day, because now you're able to maybe think a bit clearer. You're able to maybe kind of like sleep. Maybe you weren't able to sleep before because there were things that were maybe on your spirit or on your heart that were keeping you up at night. Or maybe there were things that were on your spirit or on your heart that hadn't been cleansed, that were from ancestral accidents or ancestral trauma or ancestral incidents and things like that. Or there's an ancestor that's trapped, and there's an ancestor that can't rest, and therefore they're like, well, if I can't rest and you're me and I'm you and you're just a projection of me in that time and space, you're just existing in the physical and you are just currently occupying a body, and you're supposed to be a representation of me, then you don't sleep. And for a lot of us, when we don't have an avenue to turn to be able to find a solution for that, then the other alternative is take the pill, deal with the side effects, and just kind of cessate the symptom as opposed to finding the root of the problem. And when you're dealing with a reading and when you're dealing with spirituality, you're dealing with the root. You're dealing with addressing the thing that's actually happening, not dealing with the symptoms. It's night and day, and for a lot of us don't know we need it. A lot of us aren't aware that it's a possibility. And because the spiritual aspect of things has been demonized to such a degree, the problem is this: you will not turn to spirituality until, like Cynthia said, it's the last thing you've considered. And then at that point, then you're dead broke. You're broken down. Maybe they took out both of your kidneys. Maybe you have like one lung. You're on your deathbed, and then the only thing that's following you is death. And then now you're like, man, maybe I am open to maybe going and checking out what the indigenous can do for me. Maybe Africa does have something. And I would say that if you really feel like something's wrong, and if there's something that's keeping you up, something that's stopping you from moving forward, because for some of us, we're honest about it. We know that we've banged our head against the walls in terms of doing everything and trying everything. You've read all the self-help books. You've listened to every motivational speech you can listen to.
Right.
You've bought every course that you can buy. You've smoked every drug you could smoke. You've swallowed every pill you can swallow. You've literally done it all. You've drank as much ayahuasca as humanly possible. You've shroomed your ass off. Like, you've done it all. You've done the plastic surgery, you name it, but there's something inside that like you just can't quite fix. And it's because you haven't found your ancestors. And that's what a reading allows you to do, is you find your ancestors and you turn your attention toward yourself and turn your attention inward into the things that are standing behind you. So getting a reading, doing spiritual work, it's night and day, because you finally feel at home in your body. You finally feel at home no matter where you go, because then you start to realize that there's nothing wrong with you and there's something wrong with the society. And there's something wrong with what they're telling you. There's something wrong with what they want you to drink, with what they want you to eat, and what they want you to swallow, and what they want you to call medicine. But it's a drug, and it's doing something to chemically castrate you, whether it's in the brain or whether it's in the reproductive, whether it's in the organs. They're doing something to castrate you somehow chemically, because they don't know how to fix it, and they don't want you to look at the people that can help you fix it. And so what they do is they say, just take this thing, it'll turn it off, and then just make sure you re-up.
Mic drop.
Yeah, bomb drop, man. Bomb. I really wish I could reach that thing right now. But yeah, I mean, everything that Tutipsu was just saying and everything that everybody was touching on is it's really bringing light, you know, to the fact that we do live in a society where people are asking questions. People have these real things that they're going through, and they have to assess them. They have to try to figure it out one way. But there's been so many different, you know, shorthand BS answers that have been cooked up for us that aren't serving the purpose that, you know, we're really looking to serve. So that pretty much does it for all of the questions.
September 3rd, Doors of Initiation are opening up in New Jersey. The rest of the month of September, you can find the Doors of Initiation opening up in various temples all throughout Manu, all throughout Canada. When I say Manu, I'm so sorry. I mean North America. Damn, does my breath smell bad? No. Oh, okay. I was like, gosh. I was like, don't come, because the breath is what you'll smell. But in all seriousness, I don't have the dates in front of me, but the Doors of Initiation are going to be opening up in Chicago. They're going to be opening up in Houston. They're going to be opening up in Montreal, in Toronto, in the DMV area, because I think they moved from Baltimore and they now might be in a different area. So I'm just going to say DMV, London, Coventry, even in Merita. When
right
I say
now,
Merita,
all of the phone numbers and the locations are on screen.
All of that stuff are on the screen. Perfect. So check it out. Get involved. Initiation's not the only way you can take it or the only way you can get to it. If initiation's and the online temple. For those of you that aren't near a physical location, the online temple as well. And initiation's not the only way you could take it. There's so many ways. If you're just somebody sitting around, you got a lot of money, and you're just like, well, let me help these broke ass cult members, then hey, do it. You can donate to Kepta, you can donate to ANH, Ancasta. There's so many things you can do. You can come on the pilgrimage. We're going to be having a trip in January, but we're allowed to start sharing it with our community. So if you're on the line, we're able to tell you about it. There's going to be a trip in January. It's a cultural and spiritual pilgrimage. We're going to be going to various different areas in Merita. When I say Merita, I'm not talking about the colonized parts of Africa. I'm talking about we're going to temples, and you're going to get the real history. You're going to get the history from an uncolonized perspective, an indigenous education. And what's going to happen is you're going to learn things that they are not going to tell you. And when I say they, I mean the universities. I mean the academic institutions. I mean the government, I mean science, I mean what the Vatican is sitting on, I mean what all of these institutions, the religions are sitting on, what all of them are in cahoots to keep everybody else from figuring out. That's the kind of stuff you're going to be learning. So there's so many ways you can get involved. There's so many things you can do. Gated Gates podcast, we go live every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yep.
These lives are going to be happening for the other generations, the other graduated generations. The Psychopters might do it a bit different, but I know for the Maaheqwurrs are going to be like us up here. And if you think you learned something, if you think, hey, that was very insightful, and you're like, man, it was actually pretty interesting, just wait until you meet the Maaheqwurrs.
Most intelligent man.
But yeah, like Tutisa was saying, again, this is a special broadcast, the Initiate, Illumination, live testimonials, to give you guys out there just a taste of these real people's lives. These are real people who had
real
lives before this initiation, and now that they've been through that first level of Parank, they are still real people with real lives, with real challenges, still having to function within this colonial world, but now having a basis, a foundation to stand on, to actually give them some sort of a
message.
Right. But yeah, with that being said, this has been another episode of the Gate of Gates podcast. Thank you to all of the viewers out there for tuning in. Get your questions ready for the next one, because we will be back. So?
Oh, yeah, and Tesh, please, you can drop your email in the chat so we can forward that for you. Or what you can do is you can send an email to nj@theearthcenter.org, and then we will forward your information along. That's for Tesh W. You can send us an email at nj@theearthcenter.org. That's TheEarthCenter.org, and we'll forward that information.
Clap it up for Tatisa for spelling it correctly. He was so close
I was so close to messing it
tearing
up.
it up.